You are listening to the Outlaw Podcast with me, your host, Andrea Hall. I am a certified equine gestalt coach, speaker, 3-time author, and lawyer. I help women lawyers who are miserable in their career, struggling with mental and emotional health issues, wanting to have fun in their lives, and struggling to be selfish. After fulfilling my dream of being a criminal defense attorney and opening my own law practice right out of law school, I thought I had it all. While at the height of my career, my 18-month-old puppy died, and I thought, what am I killing myself for? Sometime later, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and my world turned upside down. It was in that moment I realized something had to change. This podcast is about sharing my journey with you about what is possible in your life outside the legal profession, stopping the adulting, and being able to play as a child, inspiring you to dream again. Let the journey begin. Welcome back to another episode of Outlaw. I'm your host, Andrea Hall. We have a verdict. I used to live for the days where I heard those words. I would spend numerous days, weeks, and months prepping for the big day, and I would spend days and sometimes weeks in trial, fighting tooth and nail against the police, the prosecution, and a judge who was in a black robe who was more than likely a former prosecutor. And we would spend hours presenting our case and hoping that it would be a great outcome. And at the end, I always said to my client, now, unfortunately, we have to wait. And there's nothing more that we can do. We've done everything we can. And unfortunately now, it's up to 6 men and women, or 12 men and women, who will ultimately decide the fate of your case. And it was sometimes very difficult because you never knew what was going to happen inside that jury room. And I have had one opportunity in my lifetime to sit on a jury. I was 18 years old, and it's the one and only jury trial that I've ever sat on. And I wasn't very old because it was the summer after I graduated from high school. And unfortunately, it was a sex case. And I will never, ever forget that. We sat in trial for at least 2 days. I was the youngest juror on that case. And ultimately, we fought for 2 days in a jury room. And I was the Lone Ranger. I was the holdout. I was the one that said this man was not guilty. And I remember getting browbeaten for days of people telling me I wasn't old enough to know whether or not this man was guilty or not guilty. That people yelled at me because they were missing their kids' soccer game, or that the food that they were giving us was terrible. And I will never forget, after day 2, I finally caved. And I said, I cannot take this anymore. And I said, I give. I'll just say he's guilty. And I remember walking in and looking at the defendant and knowing that the jury foreman was going to announce that we had made a decision that he was guilty. And I remember almost throwing up in the jury box when the judge announced the verdict, because I knew in my heart that this man was not guilty. There were questions that I had about the scenario and the information that we had received, and in my heart I believed he wasn't guilty, and yet I caved. And I will never forget that day. And I vowed at that point in time that I would never allow that to happen on my watch. And again, throughout my career, I knew that there were people in the same situation that I was, that were sitting in a jury room being browbeaten and being talked into a verdict that they may not agree with. And this was very stressful as a defense attorney, knowing that someone held my client's fate in their hands and that they may regret the decision that they made. They may not have liked the lunch that they were served. They may be missing a kid's soccer game. It may be too hot in the jury room, and yet they still held my client's fate in their hand. And this was very weighing and taxing on me and my mental and emotional health. And ultimately, I got to a place where I was having health issues and I was struggling mentally and emotionally. And it got to a place where the kill for me was no longer fun. And hearing those words, "we have a verdict," became too much to handle. And I wanted to have a life outside of that, a life that once again brought me passion and that I could be happy about. And that when I got out of bed in the morning, my heart didn't start racing, and that my breathing pattern didn't change, and that I was not in a fight or flight response mode as a result of having to defend a client, appear in front of a judge, have a conversation with a prosecutor, whatever that might be. And so as a result of that, I started following breadcrumbs to see what would bring me passion again, what would create joy in my life, what would make me excited and not want to be attached to a cell phone and email and a calendar and emotions calendar and schedule. And ultimately that led me to horses, a place where I can now be grounded and centered. In fact, this afternoon I met with another lawyer to talk about my business and how we could actually help each other, because the legal profession is running around with its hair on fire. And instead of calling the fire department, we're fanning the flames, like hoping they're going to go out, right? And ultimately, we need the fire department. We need a bucket of water. This is not going to put the flame out. And unfortunately, there's so many lawyers that aren't able to see outside the box because we are so reactive to what is happening now in the present moment that we're not able to step outside that and think about the future and think about things long term, because we're in such a reactive mode. We're so used to a client coming in and dropping a bomb, a phone call coming in with a 4-alarm fire, a judge or the judge's clerk calling and saying, now we've got to set something, a client being arrested, and now we've got a bond hearing that was added to our calendar. We are in that constant adrenaline on the hamster wheel motion. And it's difficult to step away from that. And things get in the way, like our fear, our ego, our status. Who are we going to be if we're not a lawyer? Debt, student loans, bills, mortgages, all of those things that potentially keep you stuck and keep you miserable, continuing to create health issues, creating that lack of fun, that lack of time and balance, and ultimately the ability to be selfish. So if any of this sounds like you or rings true, or you used to enjoy hearing the "we have a verdict," and yet now you're second guessing that, drop me a comment, send me a private message, and let's chat. I offer free 30-minute exploratory sessions to see how I can solve at least one problem in that time frame and figure out if we're a good fit and how I can help you in the future. I know that our profession is struggling. Women, especially in the legal profession and high executive positions, are struggling because we want to do it all. We want to be the mom of the year, and we want to, be successful in our career and business, and yet we're not able to sustain that physically and mentally. It's taking a toll on you, your family, your business, your dreams, your passion, and ultimately your desires. So if any of this sounds like you, I would love to chat with you and see how I can help you. You can reach me at 970-682-4405, and let's get you scheduled for a session. Talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Outlaw. There is life after litigation. If anything I said in this episode resonates with you, call for a free exploratory session to see how I can help you. My horses will give you instantaneous feedback, unlike traditional talk therapy. You will shift your awareness into real time with the help of a horse. The horses are like lie detectors, flushing out limiting beliefs with a swish of their tail, a shift of their 1,200-pound body, or a simple unwillingness to move. Horses have a way of seeing into the window of our souls. Horses have been connected to humanity since the dawn of time. Their hearts can heal and mend our broken hearts. Simply standing in their presence can change our lives forever, putting the puzzle pieces back together and returning us to wholeness. Horses are restoring the parts of us that have been missing. You can call us at 970-682-4405 to set up your appointment today. Want to be inspired daily? See about our latest events or purchase a copy of my books? Go to our website at www.witherswhisper.com. That's www.witherswhisper.com. Or you can follow us on any social media venue at Withers Whisper. Until the next episode, listen to the whispers.